problem 8-21 from section 8.1.1, day 2. Solve x squared plus 2x minus 5 equals 0. Let's actually do this first before going on to the other questions, so maybe that will help us answer the other parts of the question. So I'm going to solve this, which means typically I'm going to factor. Now if I try to factor this, if you do the box, let's say, you do x squared, put minus 5, then you do the diamond stuff, negative 5x squared. So things that multiply to get you to negative 5 and add to get me 2. Well, the only things that multiply to get me 5, if it's positive or negative, is 1 and 5. Those are the numbers. And those a combination of those does not get me to 2, so I can't factor this. So I'm going to do the quadratic formula, where a would be 1, b is going to equal 2, and c would be negative 5. Okay? So quadratic formula is x equals opposite of b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. So we're going to plug in the values. Okay, so x equals, we're trying to find the x-intercepts here. There's a theme in the last couple of problems. If you've been doing those, you're trying to find the x-intercepts in the last couple. So negative of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c. Make sure if it's negative, it is negative, times 2, or divided by 2a. Alright, so if I plug this in my calculator, if I simplify this a little bit at a time, negative 2 plus or minus the square root, this is going to be a 16, I'm sorry, 4 plus 20 divided by 2. Okay? So I'm going to get x equals the square root for negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 24 divided by 2. Now we could simplify this. We could leave it as it is. We could actually type it out. There's a couple different things here. Let's simplify the radical a little bit. So I could write 24 could really be 4 times 6 under there, right? And since 4 is a perfect square, if I take the square root of 4, it's going to give me a 2. So that's going to become outside the parentheses. So I have a 2. What's left over is still my square root of 6. Okay? And that's divided by 2. So here, I can have my 2's cancel with each other, and I really have x equals negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 6, and that's it. Alright, so that's the first part. It's not even part A, that's just solving it for the x-intercepts. Now, if you had to graph this, it would be very helpful to type that out and figure out what the numbers are. Okay, so we use the quadratic formula. Those were our A, B's, and C's. So let's actually answer part A now. How many x-intercepts does it have? Well, basically, how many answers did we get? We have 2. 2 roots, 2 x-intercepts, 2 zeros. Approximately where does the graph of that cross the x-axis? So what are the x-intercepts? And in this case, we would type in the calculator, negative 1 plus the square root of 6, and then negative 1 minus the square root of 6. And in those cases, I'm going to get 1.5 to be one of my x-intercepts, with a 0 for y. And another one would be about negative 3.45. 0. You should write these as points. Okay? Don't just say x equals this, and especially don't say x equals 1.45 comma negative 3.45, because that is a point, and that's not the x-intercept. Okay? So write them as two separate points where y equals 0. What we did is we tried to factor. We had to do the quadratic formula. If it doesn't factor, that doesn't mean there's no x-intercept. So you need to do the quadratic formula and figure out those, and that helps you answer the other questions.